Welcome to another episode of The Modern Hotelier. We're excited to release this conversation with Stacy Warner from Eat.Drink.Sleep. David, what were some of your favorite takeaways from this episode?
Yeah, well, she did a great job. Her first podcast, love meeting people that love being hoteliers. You could just tell how much she enjoyed her job and being in this industry. So I think what Eat, Drink, and Sleep are doing is amazing, and it was great talking to her.
Absolutely. It was fun to understand a little bit more of the backstory about Eat, Drink, and Sleep and what makes them different as a management company. After we stayed at Tower 23, we got to experience the hospitality. We got to experience the people. We got to experience the great views and great food. And then it's kind of hearing from Stacy's point of view, like what goes into that and how they create these great experiences. So overall, really fun conversation and excited to hear what everybody thinks. Enjoy.
Enjoy. Welcome to The Modern Hotelier, the most engaged podcast in hospitality. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe, and let us know in the comments what you think about today's episode. Steve, who do we have on the program today?
Yeah, David. Today we have on Stacy Warner. Stacy is the executive vice president at Eat, Drink, Sleep, where she oversees brand strategy and operations for the company's boutique hotels and restaurants. Eat, Drink, Sleep is known for creating concept-driven hotels, bars, and restaurants that blend unique design with unforgettable guest experiences. Stacy's been with Eat, Drink, Sleep since 2012, helping shape their distinctive hospitality experiences with a people-first approach. Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Thank you.
Okay, Stacy, so we're going to go through a couple different sections here. We're going to go through a quick lightning round. We're going to get to know you better, your personal background, your career, and then we're going to dive into some industry topics. Sound good?
I'm ready.
All right. What is something that you wish you were better at?
Oh gosh, the guitar.
Okay, that's good. What's your most used emoji?
Thumbs up.
Hmm. If you had a time machine, which way would you go? To the future, to the past, and what year?
Definitely the future and probably like 2030 or 2045, 2050, somewhere in there, not too far.
Okay, good. What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. Best piece of advice that I've received is probably gosh, sorry.
That's okay.
You're good.
Yeah.
It's not a hard question. Okay, the best piece of advice that I've ever received is I was worried about something, and one of my girlfriends said, "When has anything happened that you couldn't handle?" And I think about that a lot. It always I incapable person.
That's good. That's good advice. What's your favorite city and why?
My favorite city is probably Montreal, and I just love the culture, the vibe, the architecture. I mean, can't get enough of it.
That's great. That's great. So now, Stacy, we're going to dive into your background a little bit. What makes you tick? So you grew up in Lakeville, Massachusetts. Is that correct?
It's true.
Yeah. So how did growing up in Lakeville shape you into who you are today?
Well, Lakeville is a very small town in Massachusetts near pretty much nothing. So growing up, I always knew that I would want to leave there, but it was a great place to grow up. Very safe, a very tight knit community. I think I graduated with 90 people and I'd been in school with them since elementary school. So you really got to be yourself and avoid some of the cliques and things that you hear about.
And you went to Fairfield University. What did you major in? What made you decide to go to Fairfield?
Well, I chose Fairfield because I was very young and immature, and it was beautiful. It looked like a college campus out of a movie, and that's how it felt going there too, and it's a Jesuit school, so there was a lot of focus on how you can be responsible for giving back to your community. And we did a lot of projects as in our classes in our schools that focused on community work, and that really spoke to me. And then I was an English major with a finance minor. I went in as an English major, and then I had a boyfriend whose dad was like, "You got to pick something else up, like something that's going to get you a job." So I picked up a finance minor at the end, and that was it.
That's incredible. So, I had to call around Lakeville, Massachusetts to find out this, but I heard that you fell in love with hotels as a child because you hated making your bed and like swimming pools. Is that correct?
This is true. I would beg my parents for my birthday to take me to Boston and let me and stay in a hotel. I wanted to order room service. I loved the white sheets, the indoor pools. I mean, couldn't get enough. Loved hotels from a very young age.
And look at you now. It's you spoke that into existence. I'll say that. That's great. So now we're going to get into your career a little bit, how you got to Eat, Drink, Sleep. So you worked at the Westgate Hotel as a catering sales manager. What did those early days teach you that you still take with you today?
That was such a great experience starting in hospitality. They had a really robust J1 program. So people who'd gone to hospitality school, they came over to San Diego to work at the Westgate, mostly Austrian, and this was their career. They wanted to work in hotels. They had a really high standard. It was pretty exacting. We had a chef, I mean, a very old school chef, the kind that you said "we" to and didn't look in the eye, but it was just exciting, and I had not really considered it as a full-fledged career at that point, but being there, I could see how fun that could be.
Absolutely. And I have a follow up question from this. Moving from Massachusetts to the West Coast, were there challenges or things to get used to with that move? And how'd you end up in San Diego?
Well, I ended up in San Diego because I wanted to learn how to surf, so I intended to come for a year, but, then life happens and you get entrenched, and it was definitely a little bit of a culture shock, not shock, that's too strong of a word, but definitely a culture difference. When I went to school in Fairfield, I it's right outside New York City. So I had an internship in New York City, and you would see people in the morning, like, literally sprinting down the road to get into work. And then when you come to San Diego, it's so casual and everyone's like, "Good morning. How are you doing?" I'm like, "Good morning. It's 6 a.m. Just give me a cup of coffee." But now I'm that person. I go back to the East Coast and I'm like, "Hi, how you doing?" So it's changed.
The East Coast is totally different. It's a different animal.
Yeah. So in 2012, you ended up joining Eat, Drink, and Sleep, and you've worked your way up to executive VP. How did that all come about? How did you end up with Eat, Drink, and Sleep?
So I actually started with Eat, Drink, and Sleep before they were Eat, Drink, and Sleep. When they just had Tower 23 Hotel, when they were building it, it just happened that I lived in the neighborhood and I saw that hotel being built and I want to work there. It was right on the beach. It was really cool. It had a really cool design. And then it turned out that my previous boss went to be the GM there, so he called me and was like, "Do you wanna come work for me?" And I was like, "I absolutely do." So I started there as a catering manager. I think it was 2006. Eventually became the director of sales and the director of sales marketing, and then as EDS grew, I went to work on with the corporate team.
That's
That's
great.
awesome. And we can vouch. Tower 23 is an amazing, amazing
Yes.
property. So
Thank you.
I definitely see why that one caught your eye. So for those that might not be familiar with Eat, Drink, Sleep, can you share more about what you do and the background?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Eat Drink Sleep is an owner operator of hotels, but we also work with clients on development projects. So, we really do everything across a hospitality project's lifespan, all the way from feasibility to early branding, concept design, development, and then day to day operations. And we've expanded in the last couple years. So, we also work with other hospitality related projects. So, not necessarily hotels, but we've worked on amusement parks, golf courses, marinas, those types of projects.
Sure. It's a great name. So, what is some fun news or some upcoming things that are happening with Eat, Drink, Sleep?
Well, we're working on a project right now. It's very early stages. We're just doing some consulting at this point in Liberty Station. They're exploring the option of building a hotel. It's a really cool locale. Liberty Station, for listeners who don't know, it is right outside of downtown San Diego, close to the airport. It was a military base during World War II. And then in the last 20 years, it's been redeveloped as a multi-use space. So now there's tons of dining, tons of shopping. There are some hotels, but mostly flagged more business hotels, nothing really dedicated to leisure travelers. So the foundation that is responsible for the arts program at Liberty Station would like to add a hotel. So we've been working with them on that to explore, whether that can happen in the site.
Okay.
Very nice. So now we're going to go into the thought leadership industry thoughts a section of the podcast. So, Eat, Drink, Sleep is known for creating boutique hotel experiences, kind of focused on the personality of not only the property but the staff as well. I want to understand how do you balance the operational side of things with creating that memorable guest experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, we don't. We put the guest experience first. That's really at the center of every decision that we make. We're really fortunate. We've had employees with us. The leaders at all of our properties currently have been with us since the front desk days. People tend to come with us, grow through the company, so they bring with them this focus on the guest experience.
That's great. And so, how do you see guest expectations evolving in the next, say, 3 to 5 years? And how's Eat, Drink, Sleep preparing for some of those maybe more demands from guests?
I mean, ultimately, I'm not sure that the guest expectation is changing dramatically. Of course, people want more convenience. They want the option of more convenience, especially for our hotels. They're leisure hotels. People are coming there. They're trying to relax or celebrate or spend some quality time with the family. And those core drivers are not changing. I think what we are seeing a lot is more a changing attitude with team members and what they want out of a job and what they expect from an employer. I think we're in a good position to navigate some of that, but we've definitely seen a shift in that. And how do you instill in this upcoming group of employees this guest first mentality? And how do you make it fun for them to interact with the guest and be there in that way? We always joke that the people that we're hiring now have grown up watching videos of Karens. So they come to their job sometimes a little defensive. So we really work to support them so that they can understand that everyone is here for these people. And our job is to make sure they're having a really great, memorable time. And that's not to say, you have to take bad behavior from a guest, but we do need to go out of our way to deliver on what we've promised to them, which is that they're going to have a relaxing, enjoyable time with us.
I love that. And I want you to expand a little bit more on that because, one thing that we talk about on this show quite a bit is a labor shortage that's happening and how hard it is to not only hire new hoteliers, but retain them as well. Do you have any tips or tricks out there for other hoteliers on how to retain their top talent?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a bit of hand wringing in the industry, and some of it is somewhat self-inflicted, you know, especially in tough markets or expensive markets. There's been a lot of focus, I think, on keeping labor low, and the employees who are coming into that are used to working in that environment where they feel pretty expendable, and we really make that extra step to show them there's a career path for them if they stay with us or, if they want to go somewhere else. So if they're working in the restaurant, okay, what do you need to make this a career for you, whether that be wine knowledge or food knowledge? Like I mentioned, we have a lot of employees who've been with us for 10, 15, 20 years. And that's because we've given them opportunities to grow.
That's awesome. And I'm excited for this question. This is something I didn't know about Eat, Drink, Sleep, but you actually helped build Second Sight Design, which is Eat, Drink, Sleep's in house creative studio. What benefits have you seen from having your own in house creative studio? And would you recommend that to other hotel groups?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. We like to say that we specialize in projects that need extra TLC. And what I mean by that is they have some serious constraints. So, whether that be the size of the property, the location of the property, we have a property out on Catalina Island, not an easy place to get to, or really budgetary constraints. So, these constraints that for a traditional hotel would make the property or the project not really that enticing, we find really drives a lot of creativity. So when there's a lot of challenges and obstacles, you have to ask really good questions about how you're going to solve those problems. And having our own in-house team lets us make sure that everyone is very aligned on where we're going, and we are able to bring really that owner operator mentality to every step of the design process. Sometimes when you are working with outside firms, they also want a beautiful portfolio piece. And at the end of the day, our projects, because they're constrained often in size, every piece needs to work. And we don't have the luxury of having a little nook that is unused or big budget overruns. So having that design team in-house really makes sure that we're able to make those decisions quickly. Our owner, Brett, he's really involved in the design process. So he has a big vision for what he wants. And while we still bring a lot of design ambition to our projects, at the end of the day, they need to function. And having that team in house really lets you kind of iterate on those ideas much more quickly. So yes, I would recommend it.
I just gotta ask, is there one project constraint that really sticks out to you where you're like, "I don't know how we're gonna do this," but then you ended up overcoming it as well?
So the project that I mentioned on Catalina, we acquired that project in 2018. We came on as the owner operator, and we had the intention to renovate it. We started that in 2019. It's on an island. You can only access it by barge or ferry, I mean, or helicopter. It's very hard to get to.
The Catalina wine
We
mixer, right?
Yeah, Catalina wine mixer, it's a real thing. And then we started that project in late 2019. Obviously, by March 2020, we were like, "How are we possibly going to execute this?" So it was very, very challenging. But because we had the team in-house, we were able to keep working on things. We had to get really creative with some of the design aspects. Like, our graphic designer was out there installing artwork herself, because, people couldn't get there, and it was a huge challenge, but it ultimately all worked out, and it's a beautiful hotel. The renovation came out really wonderfully, so that would be a good example.
It's great.
All right, I got 2 questions. The first one, there's no right or wrong answer, and I don't know why I'm asking it, but I just thought about it this morning. Um, what do you prefer? I mean, everyone either uses the word boutique or independent. Do you, as a company, do you guys look more and think of yourselves as boutique or an independent, or am I just crazy and there's no difference?
I think there is a difference. I don't know that I have a strong preference, but if I had to pick, I would say independent. I think boutique has been a little overused. It seems like any hotel that's under 200
Right.
rooms with a decent restaurant is claiming to be boutique. So I think that independent maybe means a little bit more, but I'm not sure that the consumer understands what independent
Yeah.
means. So we often use boutique.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. What emerging technologies are you seeing that are really shaping the future of independent hospitality and hotels?
I mean, a lot of it is communication based, right? So guests are expecting and needing instant communication. So it's like, how do you facilitate that? How do you get these questions answered quickly? How do you make sure that you're in the right place at the right time when they're ready to book? So we've been investing in that with new websites and some chat functionality, and also internal communication, because the guests have more access because they're texting us. How do you make sure that you're able to follow through on all of those things? So that's facilitated a lot too.
Yeah.
That's great. Stacy, I got one more question for you here. If you could give yourself advice when you were first starting out at Tower 23 on how to move up in hotels and in hospitality to now you're the executive vice president, what advice would you give yourself?
I think a great way to move up in a hospitality environment is to work for an independent hotel. We are really lucky. We're not hedged in by a lot of rules or a lot of brand standards. There's very much an entrepreneurial spirit at EDS. So generally, it's if you have an idea and you're willing to execute it, the answer is yes, go for it. So that gives you a lot of opportunities to, interact with ownership, interact with upper leadership, and really be able to make a mark on the guest experience and what's happening from an employee experience perspective. And it's really fulfilling, I think, to be able to be someone who's making an impact in the day to day operation.
I
I
love
agree.
that. I
Yep,
love that.
I
Great
agree.
advice. So, Stacy, we've been asking you questions this whole time. So now we're going to turn the tables and let you ask David and I a question.
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that. So thank you for the opportunity. Well, what brought you two together?
Oh, David, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so through very interesting. So through my network, I ended up talking to a venture capital firm that had invested in a startup property management system based out of India, which was launching in the US. And so I ended up talking to the CEO, became an advisor. Steve was the head of sales. And one of the initiatives was how do we create this brand awareness? And so I said, look, I'm the old guy. I've been at this for like 20 something plus years. Let's do a podcast because I can get guests on and we can leverage that as a way to kind of bring brand awareness. And so kind of just took off from there. And then we were fortunate enough, I think, that company went back to India and we ended up buying the podcast from them. And that's kind of our story since then. And we've been
Since then,
pushing.
David's realized how great his voice is because every time we travel, people are like, "Your voice is made for radio," and it's great.
Yeah, it's funny. I always tell people it's hilarious being I've been dating my wife since 1996. Never got many compliments, but anyway, she we started the podcast. She's like, "Oh, you have a nice voice." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "It took like 20 something years for you to give me a compliment." But anyway, I hate my own voice, but
Uh,
that's another
I
story.
don't
But
think anybody really.
Well, it sounds very podcasty.
all right, good.
I have a
All right.
follow-up question.
Oh,
Who's your dream guest?
So I have a few of them. I really want Richard Branson on. I think he would be great, and also Dave Grutman in Miami from Group Hospitality. I really like his background as well. So those are probably two of my white whales that eventually I want to get. David, do you have anybody you want to add in there?
I would say right now I'll change it because we did another segment on another episode, but I would love to have Conan O'Brien.
Oh yeah,
Just because he interviews people. He's had a lot of formats, like he's done travel shows where he's traveled to countries, and his current format is kind of a cool setup. He's got two side people there, they're a different personality. So he would probably be someone I think would be a lot of fun to interview.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, those are good questions, Stacy. Thank you. So now we're going to bring in John, our producer. He's been listening this whole time. So we're going to kick it over to him for one final question before we get you out of here, Stacy.
All right, so kind of going back to your the first segment where you said you got into hotels because you were just a lover of hotels as a kid. I'm curious, with that in mind, what's your top two favorite hotels that are not Eat, Drink, Sleep properties? And then the second part is as somebody who loves hotels and is in the industry, what do you learn when you go to a different property, or how does that inspire your work and your day-to-day work with Eat, Drink, Sleep?
Top hotels, I love the Parker in Palm Springs. And also, there's a hotel called the Lenox in Boston that I have a real soft spot for. I got stuck there during a blizzard. The whole city got closed down for 3 days. And this team was, I mean, we were just stuck there. And they were making us cereal and hamburgers, and there's no power. And they were working so hard. And it really was just an amazing, I mean, ended up being fun experience. And then as far as what I learned, I mean, I love to stay in hotels. I love seeing the design tricks. I recently stayed at a hotel in New York City and just seeing some of the ways they used the space. It really, I mean, we don't have those kind of restrictions necessarily in San Diego or in California space wise, but it was really interesting how thoughtful and how intentional they'd been about the space usage. And I think that's a lesson that anyone can bring into a hotel or any developer can bring it into a hotel. And it just felt like whoever had designed that room had anticipated my every need. You know, you woke up and the lights like gently turned on and like led me to the bathroom and everything was right where you intuitively expected it to be. And it just felt perfect.
All right. Well, that does it for another episode of The Modern Hotelier. Stacy, please let people know how they can get in touch with you or find out more about Eat, Drink, and Sleep.
So you can find out more about us at eatdrinkandsleep.net, or you can email me directly at swarner@eatdrinkandsleep.net, or call me, or I'll be at BitTac next week in Sarasota, so we can bump into each other there. Please reach out.
All right, that's great. Well, that does it for another episode of The Modern Hotelier, the most engaged podcast in hospitality. Whether you're watching or listening, we appreciate you and hope to be with you again soon. Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks.
You made it to the end of The Modern Hotelier. Thanks for watching or listening. The Modern Hotelier is produced by Modern Hotelier Media. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube, or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you know a good guest, sponsor, or have media needs, feel free to reach out to us at hello@themodernhotelier.com. Thanks and have a great day.